Are we laggers?
Welcome to the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts Podcast Live, kind of. We don't know what to call this, so we just call it that. I'm Mike Strauss, a.k.a. Strauss21. That's Paul Taj Mahal.
Chicago's #1 underground comic. So underground, you don't even know who I am.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, I also like to give a huge shout out before we start this off to Madison, Wisconsin. I went and did a show up there. Just popped in at the comedy club on State. It was a blast. They didn't know I was coming, so they just threw me on, gave me a couple minutes.
Very cool.
And the crowd, dude, that crowd is always awesome.
Madison, yeah. College town, right?
College town. They laugh. We had fun. And since I'm from there, I get to like
the hometown vibe.
I get to also talk about things like people only know about in Madison, and so it's kind of fun. But yeah, it was a blast there. Went on a little vacation, cleared my mind, spent a night in jail. Oops. But yeah, it was a great trip, man. I went hiking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, kind of a slow week in mixed martial arts, but before we get into all that, we appreciate all love and support, guys, with the podcast. DidYouSeeThatShit.com. You could find it there. You could find it on any social media platform too. Just look for a little smiley face, orange poop in his eyes. That's us.
His name is Jeffrey.
His name is Jeffrey. We're on everything, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever. Of course, right here on YouTube, the Missing Time Productions channel. All of our content goes there. And of course, I want to thank all the sites that allow me to contribute: Cage Side Press, Combat Press, and the most recent one, MyMMAnews.com. So thanks. Check all my work out at those sites if you guys have not yet already. And yeah, kind of a slow week, but PFL is in town. They're in Chicago.
It's gonna be exciting.
I'll be there tomorrow for the open workout, and then the weigh-ins, of course, and then Thursday the fights. We just recorded our podcast.
Yeah,
it won't come out until probably tomorrow. Yeah. So we could kind of tell everybody we didn't break down the entire PFL 2 card because there's 13 fights, just for the sake of time. But there's a lot of really good fights on that card, man.
You know, I'm not huge into the local guys or the smaller organization as you are, but I love watching them because they always introduce me to people.
Well, I would really consider the PFL like a small. I mean, they're not like a regional promotion like XFO or something. They're a very large organization, the third biggest in the States now.
They're definitely a bigger organization.
Arguably.
Yeah, arguably. But because of the PFL, I get to be introduced to people that I then become huge fans of. Someone that recently we talked about on the podcast, Kayla Harrison. I just got done watching some of her judo. Wow.
Yeah.
She's not the flashiest judo player I've ever seen.
Amazing.
But she is so good. And then I watched her versus Ronda Rousey. But she was a lot smaller back then. She's a big girl.
Yeah. She's very big.
So she's going to be permanently a 145 pounder, right?
155.
150.
This fight, I believe, with the fight that she's having with, I think, Brittany Elkins or something like that. This fight is at 155 pounds. I don't know if that's where she'll be competing permanently or whatnot. This is the Kayla Harrison fight is the only fight of the night that's not in their season structure. It's kind of a one-off. But next year they're talking about bringing in, when they do another season, talking about bringing in more women. But I think I'm writing a piece right now for Combat Press. I really believe that Kayla Harrison could be the star that the PFL needs to compete with the UFC and Bellator. She is that good, in my opinion. She is a 2-time judokan gold medalist.
Isn't she the first female judokan U.S. champion?
To medal to gold? I think so. She's done it twice. She's also won the Pan Ams twice, and then she won Worlds in 2010. She's a former training partner of Ronda Rousey's, and she's training an American Top Team, and I think she could potentially be bigger and better than Ronda if they groom her right. And of course, she's got to have the talent too. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. Also, man, Rick Story is fighting on that. Ramsey Najim, just a lot of former UFC guys. Will Brooks coming back home to Chicago. We're gonna see if like you said on the podcast, you think he's done. We're gonna see. I think he might have a little bit left. Who knows?
Let me rephrase that. I don't think he's done. If we get the Will Brooks that we saw in the UFC, he is done.
Definitely.
But I truly believe sometimes going away from the limelight and going to a smaller organization can help a guy's career. Anthony Rumble Johnson being the biggest person that happened.
Titan.
Yeah, he went over to Titan. So I think if Will Brooks can, at this time away from the limelight and the big stage of the UFC, can bring him back to what we saw, the killer he was in Bellator.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, there's a lot of good fights, man. We'll see. I think he can do it. He's fighting Luis Firmino in the last fight of the evening. Got to be careful because there's no main event. And if you think about it, there really isn't, because every fight is essentially worth the same amount of points potentially.
I forgot Rick Story was on this card. Holy moly!
Yeah, there's a lot of good fights, man. Efren Escudero was fighting. I mean, Jason High and Efren Escudero was the first fight of the night. That's crazy. That's a great fight. So it's really going to be a good night, man. I can't wait. Also, last week the Contender Series kicked off the second season. The biggest news, well, the two biggest things probably to come out of it would be the 8-second KO of Deshaun Boatwright and Greg Hardy, right?
Yeah.
Those would be the two biggest things.
The Greg Hardy thing, I actually now have an issue. The more I've been thinking about it, and I talked about it on our podcast, I made fun of it. I have an issue with him getting a developmental deal.
Why?
Because I don't think he deserves. I don't think a developmental deal makes no sense for him. I'm just talking about circumstances.
Let's back up. A developmental deal, if you don't know what it is, basically in a nutshell, is it allows a fighter to not have to work a job and train and balance all that stuff. It allows a fighter to concentrate full time on training, and the UFC will foot the bill for training, rent, for I'm assuming it's a reasonable allocated amount of money, but essentially the UFC will cover 80, 100, X amount of dollars, whatever is agreed upon. I'm sure everyone is unique, but that way you don't have to do what Max Griffin did his entire career, basically, and hold a full-time job and balance life, work, kids, family, fighting. Yeah. That's insane. So,
I love the developmental deals.
Just not for Greg Hardy.
He made millions of dollars as an NFL player. And no offense, the reason he's not in the NFL is from his own doing.
Well, that's a fair argument.
So when I look at that, and then we have a guy on, and I can't remember his name, I do apologize, who's been fighting, who won his fight in crazy fashion. I'm pretty sure it's
Christopher Curtis.
Christopher Curtis. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even get signed, and this guy, and now he's retiring. Mm-hmm. And I feel, if you want to, developmental deals feel like to me belong to fighters who are on the up and coming, who are not already a name. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if they gave CM Punk a developmental deal.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. Greg Hardy has a name. He has money. He doesn't deserve a developmental deal. Now, if you're saying the developmental deal is structured a little differently, where you're in the UFC but you're not in the UFC, and you're fighting on smaller organizations but getting paid by the UFC. Mm-hmm. Then that makes more sense to me. But if you're just paying for this guy,
that might be in it too. I mean, he might be fighting under the Titan banner. Who knows? Because that's essentially the UFC feeder league. I mean, I'm sure every case is unique. Yeah. But I feel you on the Chris Curtis thing, man. I thought he should have got one, but that makes you wonder. I mean, if they're going to be offering these developmental deals, maybe we're going to probably start seeing a whole lot more of these things then, right? Well, basically what that's doing is that's allowing the UFC to say, okay, you're my guy. But I don't know.
You're not ready for the big leagues yet.
This is not new in the industry, because Scott Coker has been doing things like this, for many years. I mean, this is what he did with Aaron Pico. This is what he used to do even when Strikeforce, way back when. Well, so
basketball players get it done, and the AAU they get stuff. Yeah. Football players as well. I think it's really good. I just don't think Greg Hardy is the person to get it. And they said in Dana White looking for a fight. I think he gave one to a kid in.
I forget. It was like the Cabo episode, I believe.
Yeah, the Cabo. I can't quite recall, but he said, we're going to give him a developmental deal. I think these are great. I think that you're going to see better talent because of it, but I think that it should be given out to people who really, really need it.
And just to be clear, it was Alonzo Menefield. He knocked out Sean Boatwright in 8 seconds. He's the one that gets the contract.
Alonzo was on the season last year, correct?
Yes, this was the second time on the show.
They got the contract. They turned him away, said he needed more experience, and he came back and just he's like, I got experience. Mm-hmm. Man, that was a crazy knockout. That scared the daylights out of me.
Yeah, week 2 this week, man. It's kind of a little bit of a step down, I think, in terms of excitement. There is one fight, though, the Anthony Hernandez fight. That is very interesting to me. 2 guys undefeated. Hernandez is a savage. Should be a pretty fun fight. But other than that, Honestly, man, the contender series this week. I mean, you know, it always is like that, right? It looks on paper like one way, but it's probably gonna be 5 fantastic fights.
I didn't know who Sean O'Malley was. When I saw Sean O'Malley on there, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a joke. And then he went in there, he did some crazy stuff. I was like, okay, we can see what he does. And then he had one fight, and he was like, okay, he's kind of good. And then he had another fight, and you're like, oh, this dude's the real deal.
I've noticed the Snoopcast isn't back yet.
Yeah, I'm very.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
They shouldn't do it because you know what?
Really pissed Matt Brown off.
They should bring the Did You See That Shit boys, and we will do it. If you're gonna pay us to smoke weed and talk crap about things,
If you're waiting for that, don't hold your breath, guys.
I'm working on it, guys. I'm shouting out everybody on Twitter. Make it happen.
But other than that, man, it's kind of a slow week in mixed martial arts. There's no MMA hour, so you could fill your time up with us, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, we found a hole and we're going to fill it.
Yeah, it's like putting a fucking like a square peg in a round hole, right?
Yeah, but guess what? You don't need Ariel Hawani. He has a big nose too. It works.
Yeah,
it does
almost
work.
as big.
Almost as big. I do want to give a huge shout out to your article that you wrote about the possibility that Tyron Woodley and Kobe Covington, that this is a big elaborate plan
By Dan Allen.
Yeah, set by Dan Allen.
Who knows? I don't even know if I believe it. I mean, it's a possibility.
It makes sense. They trained at the same gym.
They were managed by the same person for a long time. They still pledge allegiance to him openly.
And
they both have said they're like his father figure to them.
And Kobe Covington was in pro wrestling beforehand. He has done pro wrestling. And Tyron Woodley is really trying to make a mark.
All Tyron Woodley is about is money. He's a businessman. He's smart.
Yeah.
He's smart.
He's not a businessman. He's a businessman.
Well, he's a businessman.
He's a businessman. Tyron...
Which reminds me of a joke. And it's a kind of a little racist, but you know me, and you're black, and I'm not racist, so I can say it. Right? How do you like that?
Yeah.
Why did the African American wear a 3-piece suit to his vasectomy?
Why?
Because he figured if he was going to be impotent, he should look impotent. That's not even that bad, right?
No, that's just an ignorant joke.
That's not even that bad, though. That's funny. It's funny because it's true.
It's funny because it's true.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like, do you know why there's so many Italians named Tony? This is true.
Why?
Because when we got off the boat, when we got here, when we were shipped here from the old country, we got off the boat, we would get stamped on our hand to New York. T-O-N-Y.
Oh, really?
Imagine that.
I actually have a question because I watched the video. This was very interesting. The worst MMA nicknames of all time. It was very fun by MMA On Point. I'm a fan of them. Mm-hmm. Now, why are there so many assassins in MMA? Everybody has an assassin nickname.
Why?
I don't know. This is a serious.
There's no punchline?
There's no punchline.
I feel robbed.
This is a question that I have. Like, was everybody just sitting there like? Because all right, one, the Pitbull brothers. Did both of them just sit there? We're both the Pitbull brothers. Mm-hmm. Like, what? No. Why are you doing it? I like it now. There's like 400 assassins. At one point, there was an assassin versus an assassin.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, this is nicknames. How about this? This is my new plan. If MMA fighters have nicknames, they should now siphon it through me. Just shoot me on Twitter at Apollo T. Mahal, your nickname idea, and I'll say if it's okay.
Some nicknames are better than others.
Violent Bob Ross. One of the best nicknames I've ever seen.
Fantastic.
He looks like it. And also, huge news, that dude just got finally his first fight on Tough
27 finale,
which is probably the end of Tough. Which
I think there's one more season after.
They're going to do one more season?
No, they have to contractually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is one of the last episodes of Tough, and I got to say it was a pretty exciting season. We got some real good fighters that are going to be probably coming into the UFC. I think Violent Bob Ross,
he's definitely my favorite of the season.
He was my favorite. Mm-hmm. And he got hurt, correct?
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't finish up the season?
Mm-hmm. We're going to try to get him back on. We reached out to him. I definitely want to have him back on before that fight. So
you know what really sucks is that he knew he was hurt and he couldn't tell us. And so me and you were sitting there talking like, what if he won? He was so confident.
Right.
What if he won? What if he won?
Well, so was the other guy that we had a chance to speak with too, the Fight King.
Yeah,
the Fight God. The Fight God. Delani Perry.
Yeah,
he was so confident, man. At one point, we thought we talked to both the winners. We were like, that didn't work out.
Nah, that didn't work out. But I think Violent Bob Ross would have won it if he wouldn't have gotten hurt.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, man.
Yeah, and the fact that he is in the UFC shows that the UFC has confidence in a guy like him. I think he's going to do some serious things in the UFC, and I think his marketing is very good. If you look at his Twitter and everything that he does.
Media. He's a clever dude.
He's clever. He's funny. He's very likable. I think that he is going to be a force at that lightweight division. Because he's not too big to be there, but he's not too small. So I can see him.
He's tall, man.
He's
tall,
a
big dude.
But he's not
He's not swole.
He's not swole. Like
big enough, though.
Cutting that weight probably isn't too hard
He's
for
very
him.
chiseled.
He's very chiseled, and he has very, very good attributes and very, very calm.
Couple of house cleaning notes before we wrap it up here. I'm going to be covering Bellator 202 in Thackerville, Oklahoma. It's Friday the 13th, I believe. So
what is there to do in Oklahoma?
Well, I'm going to be covering the event. That's about it. It's at Windstar Casino, so I might spend some downtime there. And then also, we didn't touch on this in the podcast, but the UFC Lincoln, Nebraska main event, Justin Gaethje, Ally Quinta.
Wait, I thought that they don't call that off. It's official?
No, it's official.
It's official now.
100% official.
Oh, I was on vacation, guys.
And not only that, but I'm also going to try to attend that. I'm trying to get credentials for that event. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that happens.
Credential him. Credential him now. Credential me too. I don't even need that. I just want to be there.
Midwest is my area, so we'll see. We'll see.
Holy, that is a barn burner.
A lot of good fights happening on that. And also Anthony Smith, the guy that just KO'd Rashard Evans, he called out friend of the show, Sam Alvey. So two guys that we've had a chance to speak with at our friend of the show. Two guys might be going against each other, and he called them out for that event. So hopefully that happens.
I hope that happens. That's very smart because the 205 division is wide open.
Kind of is.
I have a weird theory, and I don't like betting against people who have been in our show, and since they both have, I don't kind of like that.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, but Sam Alvey, I have a weird feeling he will be challenging for a title in a year or two.
Such a crazy thought, right?
I know, but it's an awesome thought because guess what? I never thought I would say this, that Robert Whittaker would have been a champ 3 years ago. But 3 years later, we're looking at Robert Whittaker as probably one of the best 185-pounders in the world right now.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, right?
It's very crazy. And he might be facing Calvin Gastelum next. This is a very weird world we live in, but I love it because MMA is always keeping you guessing. And I am so excited for what's going to come up. We had a slow week, but guess what? We got UFC 226 coming up. My father will be fighting Stipe Miocic.
Should be a crazy fight.
Oh, that's going to be an insane fight. I think my question is how big will Daniel Cormier be?
I don't think he's going to be that big.
I think he's going to be around 235. 235-ish. I think that's where he's going to be.
Probably about right.
Yeah, that's kind of what he came in when he was fighting in Strikeforce. Stipe will come in around 240, 245-ish, where he normally comes around in. But man, that fight is going to be hard for me to break down. I know we've talked separately outside of here about it. You think that it's pretty easily towards Daniel, but I'm having a harder time on that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that as we get closer. That's all. I think that's all we got for you guys this week. Till next time, guys. I don't know. We'll try to do this again next Monday or Tuesday, so just keep an eye out for it. Follow us on social media at AKA Strauss21. Follow the show at Did You See That or DYSTSP. And follow Atalo Taj Mahal.
Follow me at Apollo T Mahal, Apollo Taj Mahal, everywhere else. Follow my Snapchat. It's really fun.
Follow Snapchat.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them
Apollo Taj Mahal.
Oh, okay. You got to be clear. There might not be that. If they're listening, listening to us, they're probably not that smart.
All our fans are smart-ish, kind of, maybe.